Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We've got a great topic. We're going to be talking about using LinkedIn marketing solutions for demand generation. My name is Jen Augustin. I'm on the product marketing team here at LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, and I'm joined by my colleague Amanda Halley, who manages all of our demand generation programs internally here at LinkedIn. So just a few things to mention before we get started. If you do have a question, please do submit it in the Q&A box. We're going to have some dedicated time at the end of today's event to cover those questions. Please also do join the conversation on Twitter at #LinkedInDemandGen. And definitely follow us for more on LinkedIn at LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, as well as on Twitter at LinkedIn Marketing. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, demand generation is, as you know, a huge topic. But again, we're going to be focusing in on how do you use LinkedIn Marketing Solutions to tackle it. And I think any conversation around demand generation necessitates talking about the topic of the buyer's journey. So we're going to take a look at what the buyer's journey is really like. There are a lot of stats out there about how long and complex it is, but we're really going to try and sort of dissect it and see sort of all the opportunities and gaps that we have to address. And then we're going to start to rethink demand generation strategies with these opportunities in mind, specifically with LinkedIn products. And then finally, I'm going to hand things over to Amanda, who is going to go over an example of an internal campaign of how we've used LinkedIn for our own demand generation. So today's buyer's journey. The only thing predictable about today's buyer's journey is its unpredictability. And there are a number of reasons for this, right? There's a lot of people involved in the purchasing decision, right? A lot of people in that buying committee. These people are all using different sorts of devices to do their own research and educate themselves. And these are, executive level, high level decision makers who are on the go, right? They're using their devices. They're often making decisions outside of the office. And so as marketers, the onus is really on us to do our best to stay in front of these people in any way we can. And so it's very challenging, right? I mean, some of you may have seen this stat before. Up to 90% of the buying process can be over before someone even raises their hand to talk to sales. And that represents a huge gap for marketing to fill, right? But it also represents a great opportunity for us as well. And here's another great stat to sort of think about. 10 pieces of content are consumed before a purchasing decision is even made. And so this sort of really stresses the importance of educating our prospects with relevant content wherever they may be in the buying process. And so what it comes down to, though, is really just the marketing funnel as we know it, right? This is a very sort of simplified way to look at it, but I think it's important because it really sort of breaks it down to its essential elements, right? We want to reach as many people as we can in our target audience. We want to bring those people into the top of the funnel and nurture and educate them as they move through the process and eventually acquire them as customers. So how are we doing this today? I think a lot of us are using a wide variety of channels in our mix. Many of us are using display advertising to increase our brand awareness and, as I said, fill that top of the funnel. Social media marketing, of course, is important. Content marketing, a ton of resources and time, I know, are being spent by marketers today producing great content, and with good reason, right? We just saw that, with people consuming so much content along the buying process, we really need to be there to give them the resources they need. And then email and search, we can't forget about these. These are probably the channels that we rely on the most, right, typically in demand generation. We love these channels because we've been using them for so long. We're used to the success metrics involved, and they really sort of, get us to that lead and cost per lead mentality that we're so used to. But there's still a challenge, right? So if you think about it, the goal of all demand gen programs is to drive people to your site so that they can eventually, learn about your brand, educate themselves, and convert, right? But the problem is that about 95% of the people that are coming to your site are just leaving. They're not converting, right? So if you have only 5% of people filling out a form, and let's say those people do get into your email database, actually only 20% of them are actually opening your emails. And so that leaves 80% of the people that you have in your database that you know who aren't engaging with you. And that leaves you with about 1% opportunities captured, which leaves a lot of room for improvement. So this webinar is all about how can we do better. We're in a pretty good place, but we can do better. So let's sort of frame the conversation around these missed opportunities as they relate to the buyer's journey. So let's first take that buying committee that we talked about. Here's a stat that sort of talks about tech purchases. So this is sort of a verticalized stat, but it is important. No less than 17 people are involved in influencing major tech purchases. That's a huge amount, right? So it really is testament to the fact that you need to get in front of as many people in your target audience as you can. And 44% of these B2B buyers are researching your products and services on their devices, right? They're constantly on the move. The challenge is that 61% of us actually aren't using mobile marketing. So again, another huge opportunity for improvement. And again, so let's say they do actually get to your site. 95% of them aren't filling out a form. 80% aren't opening their emails. And I thought this was really interesting. Half of business decisions are actually made outside of the office. So we're going to take all of these specific opportunities I call out here, and we're going to sort of address them with the different solutions in the LinkedIn marketing platform. So how do we drive more effective marketing as demand generation marketers? First of all, I think a huge part of it is actually learning to embrace the top of the funnel. And I think we are so accustomed to sort of living in a world driven by leads and conversions, which is completely understandable. But I think if we learn to sort of think about looking to the top of the funnel to provide us with more quality prospects and leads, we're going to be in better shape. So how do we fill the top of the funnel? We do this by increasing brand awareness, building our brand, and really shaping the perception that people have of our brand. Once we do this, it's automatically going to feed better prospects, more qualified prospects into the bottom of the funnel. So you'll see improvements in your lead quality, you'll see improvements in the conversions that you're getting, and you'll ultimately drive more pipeline and revenue. So the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions platform is all about giving you the ability to impact every single stage of that funnel. And so we'll see here, all this wide variety of products that we have to really enable you to take part in that, what we call a full funnel marketing approach. So let's dive a little deeper into these products. So how do we rethink demand generation with LinkedIn? The first thing we're going to talk about is investing in the top of the funnel to drive more bottom funnel conversions. How do we as demand gen marketers who are used to the bottom of the funnel, how do we start to learn how to drive demand at the top? The second thing is let's think about that 95% stat that I mentioned earlier. How do we tap into that value of all those people that are coming to our site but leaving? Traditionally, we've been sort of hooked on email, right? We sort of feel like we can't do effective marketing unless we have someone's email address. Today, we're going to show you how LinkedIn enables you to effectively nurture even those people that you don't know yet. Third, we're going to talk about how LinkedIn helps you tailor messages based on who people are and what their interests are on your site. And I think a lot of people are doing a good job of this so far with the people that they know in their email database, but we're going to expand that conversation to, again, those anonymous website visitors. And then finally, how do we reach prospects where they're most engaged? With people constantly on the go, we need to do the best we can to get our content in front of them when they're ready to engage with us and at the right time. So let's dive into the top funnel programs. The easiest way to think about it is if you have a sales cycle that's anywhere from 3 to 6 to 12 to 18 months long, you're going to need to do your best to keep your brand in front of those prospects both early and often, and as early as when they're not even sales ready, right? Because when they are eventually sales ready, you're going to be the first brand that they think of. And so essentially, the way to think about it is the more interest you drive at the top, the more conversions you're going to get at the bottom of the funnel. So how does LinkedIn help you in this area. You can essentially build great awareness with LinkedIn display advertising. So LinkedIn on-site display are the display ads that you see when you're on LinkedIn.com. And network display are the display ads that you see on basically anywhere on the web. So any of the premium business websites, any of the ad exchanges, Yahoo, Google, Facebook. Basically, we enable you to serve very targeted display ads based on the data that we have on these 364 million professionals on LinkedIn. So what does this mean for demand generation marketers, though, right? How can you use display advertising to fuel demand gen? Well, here's an example of a company called MyCase. And MyCase is really sort of after the legal professional audience. And MyCase is using LinkedIn Network Display to basically do two things. The first is to increase their brand awareness with this audience and to drive more targeted website traffic to their site. And as I mentioned in the beginning, if you think about it, really the goal of every demand gen program is to drive those people to your site, first of all, right? If they're not on your site, they can't convert on your landing pages, right? So the goal of MyCase was to really sort of get these legal professionals that they were after and get them to their site. And as you can see, they used LinkedIn Network Display to increase by 5 times basically the number of daily website visits from this target audience. And again, not just from any audience, but from the audience that they cared about most. So they're not using leads and cost per lead as their metrics here. That's something to really sort of call out. But it is indirectly supporting demand gen, and then it's feeding all this qualified traffic to their site who will eventually convert. So anonymous visitors, let's tackle this. How do you take advantage of all those people that are coming to your site for whom you don't have an email address? This is where a product called LinkedIn Lead Accelerator comes into play. And Lead Accelerator basically enables you to take all of your nurturing strategies that you know and love and you've applied to the email world, and it lets you go beyond the inbox so that you're able to serve display and social ads to the people that you don't even know. And as you can see here, you're able to essentially target the right demographics of people that are coming to your site based on job function, title, seniority. And on the right, you'll see the targeting capabilities. So Lead Accelerator enables you to target your ads based on both who these people are, their demographics, and where they're visiting your site. And we'll take a look at why that's important in a couple of slides. But so once you set up this targeting, you're able to basically nurture these people anywhere on the web. So you no longer need their email address. So you can nurture them through sponsored updates, through the Facebook news feed, and of course through any of the ad exchanges. So it's a very powerful way to keep your brand in front of people. So who's doing a good job of this? A company called Localytics has really embraced this idea of multi-channel nurturing across display and social ads. And as you can see from the results here, they have a couple of metrics that they're really looking at. The first is actually, again, not talking about leads, it's talking about page views and visits per visitor. These are metrics for engagement. And these are important to Localytics because they're indicators that the people that they're driving to their site are actually qualified sales-ready people that are interested in the product. You can make the assumption that the more page views that you have and the more repeat visitors that you have, these people are actually pretty sales-ready. And it turns out that they were, as you can see from the second bullet. More than 870 new leads were generated from those anonymous people, 870, and that's a huge amount. And they converted to sales qualified leads twice as many times as the company average. So that's a huge sort of testament to the way that they've been able to target with Lead Accelerator. Now, the last bullet I'd like to call out, because we haven't really talked about how Lead Accelerator brings value to your known contacts. So Lead Accelerator also integrates with both Marketo and Eloqua. And essentially, you can basically sync your display and social ads with your existing email programs in both of those marketing automation platforms. So this really enables you to get more value out of all those email nurturing programs, those 80% of the people that aren't engaging with their emails. You can then use Lead Accelerator to reach them in a very consistent way across the web. Okay, so let's talk messages and content now. We all probably agree that it's super important to be relevant with our content. People are at different stages of the buying process, right? They're educating and researching on their own, so we just need to be there in the most relevant way. So we're probably doing a pretty good job of this in terms of email, but again, let's think about all those visitors that are coming to our site. Have we been really able to have a sophisticated conversation with them that lets us nurture them with very targeted content? Lead Accelerator lets you do this as well, but it lets you nurture everyone in the way that they need to be nurtured. So there are two scenarios here that you see. First of all, let's say you have one group of visitors that are coming to your homepage but then leaving. This is probably an indicator that they're not very sales ready, right? So using Lead Accelerator, you can serve them display and social ads that offer very high-level content about your company, right? Maybe they're just learning or wanting to know about who you are and what you offer at a very sort of high level. The second group of visitors are engaged visitors. And these are people who are coming to your site, they're doing a ton of research, they're spending a lot of time viewing multiple pages. Maybe they're going to pages that are high-level, high-value pages for you, such as product pages or pricing pages, pages that really sort of indicate sales readiness. You want to be able to talk to these people quite differently with your display ads, right? So you want to be able to offer them data sheets or case studies, demos or free trials, very harder calls to action, right? And Lead Accelerator enables you to basically nurture these different groups of visitors in very customized ways. So Workfront is a company that's doing a great job at multi-channel nurturing as well. They were going after IT professionals, marketers, and very enterprise-level decision makers with their display and social ads. And the stat that you see here on the second bullet, they generated more than 640 leads in just 3 months. I mean, that's testament to how quickly you can get up and running with Lead Accelerator and really able to see value from all these anonymous visitors that before you were just, you know, sort of letting go of and hoping that they would come back to your site, right? And, you know, arguably the best part of all was that Workfront was able to achieve a CPL that was well below what they had in mind. So very happy with that. So finally, how do we reach prospects where they're most engaged? If people are on the go, if people are making decisions outside of the office, how does LinkedIn help you be where your prospects are and reach them when they're most receptive? LinkedIn sponsored updates is one of the channels that is fantastic for this. You've probably seen a sponsored update in your own LinkedIn feed. Essentially, it gives you the ability as a demand gen marketer to deliver your content within the context, the premium context of the LinkedIn feed. And it turns out that people are coming to LinkedIn not only to research, you know, job-related activity, but to also just consume content. They want to be able to be there to consume content from companies such as yours. And this presents a great opportunity for you to post white papers or promote webinars or ebooks, anything you need to drive demand. The second great channel for this is sponsored email. And sponsored email is essentially the most personalized way to get in touch with your audience on LinkedIn. And it really breaks through what you would consider the limitations of traditional email marketing. So spam and bounce backs, all of that sort of disappears because LinkedIn guarantees 100% deliverability. And what this means is someone's not going to receive your message unless they're on LinkedIn.com. So as a result of this, clients who are using sponsored email are witnessing just phenomenal open rates and click-through rates and conversions from sponsored email. And it's really sort of enabling them to get another channel that would, you know, augment sort of traditional email. And the other key point to mention is we sort of talked about how people are on the move, right? But not a lot of marketers are, you know, optimized for mobile. Sponsored updates and sponsored email take care of that because you're able to reach them with a message that's optimized for mobile and desktop as well. So just one last case study to close on before I hand off to Amanda. Callaway is actually an interesting example of what I like to think of as like a full funnel marketing example, right? So you'll see that they're using the entire platform, and they call out sort of the 32% open rate for sponsored emails, right? That's, again, great, right? I think in my experience, about 15 to 20% is sort of a standard open rate for typical emails, but 32% open rate is really fantastic. And the other bullets are sort of testament to the fact that you can use the platform at the same time to really increase your brand awareness at the top of the funnel, right? Callaway has as its goals, you know, engagement with its status updates, increasing followers for its company page, and just an overall increase in positive sentiment for its brand. So in this sense, it's really sort of using that approach that we talked about in the beginning, right? The more people you drive into the top of the funnel and that you can reach and sort of impact positively with your brand, the more likely they will be to convert later on with your bottom funnel channel. And so at this point, I'm going to hand things over to Amanda. And
all right, thanks, Ben.
There you go.
Okay. All right, let me just share my slides. Okay. All right, so thanks, Jen. That was a great presentation. So I'm going to share a little bit about how LinkedIn uses LinkedIn. I think as Jen mentioned earlier today, I run demand generation here for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. And so we definitely take a kind of multi-channel approach to all of our marketing. And you know, every time we have a new piece of content that's released for the marketing team, we go out and we really use all the channels and all the options that we have in front of us to market that. And we've really seen some phenomenal results, really by using kind of all pieces of the funnel in our marketing. So to kind of start, I wanted to take a step back and share a little bit about just some background on how we actually track leads and sort of what metrics we're really paying attention to on a day-to-day basis. So here's our funnel. This is, you know, or demand gen waterfall, as Serious Decisions would call it. And we start at the top with marketing inquiries. Very simple, you know, just these are leads that marketing's generated. Our next step is a task, and these are leads that we feel are qualified for SD to follow up on. And then from there, we have marketing qualified leads. We have sales accepted opportunities, which are opportunities that have been accepted by the SD team, and then those will eventually become sales qualified opportunities, which means they've been accepted by the AE. And then finally, of course, we have our bookings or closed won opportunities. So we really focus on marketing qualified leads and sales qualified opportunities as an organization. And the sales qualified opportunities piece really gives us alignment with the SD team. It allows us to make sure that we're not just generating marketing qualified leads, but really generating qualified leads that are going to ultimately turn into opportunities and eventually, hopefully, bookings for our business. So in Q2 for this year, right now, we have a goal of 3,500 marketing qualified leads and over 300 sales qualified opportunities. So not small numbers. We are kind of in the actual newer stages of building out this demand gen acquisition piece of our business right now. So we've set some lofty goals, but definitely we feel are attainable. So just wanted to share some of that background with you so you can understand the context of kind of what we're going out for when we go out with an offer and try to generate demand. All right, and then the other piece I wanted to share is that we actually group our leads into 3 types of lead groups, and these allow us to this allows us to have different SLAs for the SD or the sales development team to follow up on. So A leads are the first type of leads, and those come in through one of our contact forms. And so that's just a really qualified lead. The SD team has to follow up on that within you know, a quick period of time, and very hot leads in our minds. B leads are leads that actually come through an event or a webinar. So these people had to have attended the event or webinar, and then those are also passed off to the SD team for follow-up with some further qualification. And then those are also contacted within a short period of time. And then finally, we have our RC leads, and that simply stands for requested content. So those are leads that are downloading a piece of content from our site, anything that's kind of behind a form, a gated asset. Okay, so I'm going to dive into one of our newer offers that we released in early Q2. It's called the Crash Course to Full Funnel Marketing, and I'm just going to share how we used it and promoted it on the different channels available to us, and kind of talk through some of the testing we did, the metrics, and how we put a couple of spins on things. So first and foremost, this is pretty simple and straightforward. We ran an email campaign. We kind of always start there when we have a new offer, so we push an email out to our database. We try to be very targeted in who we're sending our content to. We've done a lot of modeling of our data and making sure that we're sending marketers who would have an interest in this type of content, the content that they would want to receive. So we sort of have offers that can be more focused on branding, more offers that are more focused on for content marketers, and then also, more on the lead nurturing demand gen side. So we try to be specific about who we're sending that to. So email is our first channel, and always a really great driver of leads for us, at least at the top of the funnel. All right. Okay. Second thing is display on and off LinkedIn, and this is where we leverage LinkedIn Network Display and then LinkedIn ads on the platform. And this is actually one of our top performing channels for this offer. So these ads are performing really well for us, and they give us different reach. So when we use LinkedIn Network Display, we're targeting marketers, in mid to large size companies, and maybe in different industries sometimes depending on the offer. So we're able to reach a lot more people, get our content out in front of these people, and eventually drive demand from them. And to go back for a second, in addition to that, we actually are able to leverage, the targeting that we have on the LinkedIn platform as well. So we're targeting, marketing professionals that are coming to LinkedIn. All right, and then so next up, LinkedIn sponsored updates. So Jen talked about this, how it can be such a great driver for demand gen, and also just for getting content out in front of people. So we use sponsored updates a lot. We leverage these in a big way because they're very effective to our marketing programs, and we have the most success using sponsored updates here internally. So we did a sponsored update for the Sophisticated Marketers Crash Course to Full Funnel Marketing. You can see it here. It's very cool. We have a lot of metrics here. You can see that by sponsoring this update on our company page, we gained, we had an additional 280,000 impressions, and we had an additional 844 clicks. So just really great results. In addition to that, we also use sponsored updates to promote webinars. So this is just an example of a webinar promotion that we did that actually is in conjunction with this ebook, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so webinars. So webinars are another channel that we use around content or ebook releases, and this is something that we basically have found to be really successful. We leverage the content from the ebook or white paper, and we pull together a webinar. Sometimes we bring in guest speakers, people who might have been featured in the content, or sometimes they're just presented by someone internally here, potentially the author of the webinar. But they're really successful. We drove I think we had almost 1,200 registrants for this webinar, and it was based on the content from the ebook. So just another really good way to take your content and leverage it in different channels. Sponsored in-mail. So we've had some really tremendous success using sponsored in-mail to promote webinars and events internally at LinkedIn. This is one of our actually top drivers. We've actually seen sponsored in-mail drive 30 to 47%, as high as 47% of our registrants for webinars. So it's definitely a go-to for us when we start promoting start promoting online events. So here you can see we did an in-mail. This is for that webinar on the ebook. And we actually did an A/B test on the in-mail, and so we actually sent two versions of it. One of them came from Sean Callahan, who was hosting the webinar, and the other one came from LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. And we had some really interesting results from the in-mail. We actually had a 47% open rate when the email was sent from Sean, and then we had a 39% open rate when it was sent from LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. However, the click-through rate on the in-mail from Marketing Solutions actually had almost an 8% click-through rate versus a 4% click-through rate from Sean. So it's kind of interesting results. We find that people tend to open in-mails if they come from a person more. However, they're more likely to engage with it if it's coming from the corporation. So just interesting kind of results and tests that we try to do on an ongoing basis to kind of tweak and optimize how we can use InMail. All right, Lead Accelerator. So Lead Accelerator is another huge piece of our marketing strategy here. And basically, every time we have a new ebook or offer that is released, we include it in Lead Accelerator. And what we do is we look at our different streams and channels and try to understand where we think it might fit in best based on the content in the ebook. So this is an example of 4 of our streams that we have running. And you can see on the top, it kind of identifies the what the stream name is. And then on the left, you can see the different weeks and then the offers correspond to that. So we actually target 2 different ways using Lead Accelerator. We target based on products, and then we also target based on behaviors. So on the left, you'll see we have an engaged stream, and this means these are people who have engaged with more than one page on our website versus homepage bouncers, who are people who have maybe just come to our homepage and left. And then on the right, you'll see we have streams specifically for Lead Accelerator and specifically for sponsored updates. And so when people visit our product pages, we're going to retarget them with content that is relevant to those products. So you can see we actually have the Crash Course to Full Funnel Marketing in 3 of these streams. It's in the Engage stream because it's actually one of our top performing pieces, and so we wanted to include it in that stream, which where the stream we see like the most positive results. It's in Homepage Bouncers because it's definitely could be considered more of a broad offer because it's talking about marketing throughout the entire funnel. And so would kind of encompass a lot of different marketers or strategies. So we include it in there. And then it's also in the Lead Accelerator stream because we do have some content in the ebook around Lead Accelerator. All right, and so then this just kind of further exemplifies how we can use Lead Accelerator. So on the previous slide, you saw that we were using, those were 300 by 250 display ads, so we use that. And we also leverage sponsored updates and then Facebook newsfeed ads through Lead Accelerator. And we see very, very, very positive results from using sponsored updates and Facebook newsfeed in Lead Accelerator. They generate really high click-through rates for us, so really a good driver of leads for the team, and something that we just always have running because it's just constantly bringing in leads on an ongoing basis and sort of helps us have a consistent demand or a consistent lead flow for our sales development team. All right. Okay, and then the final piece of this is our blog. I think that this is something that people don't necessarily think of as a straightforward demand gen channel, but it's actually, our blog is a very strong driver of leads for our team. So our content team does a wonderful job of putting together content on a daily basis. And we include in that content promotion of our ebooks. And so when something comes out that's new, usually the author of the ebook will publish a post on the blog, and then we'll, of course, link to the ebook for people to download it. In addition to that, we actually use a lot of banners on our blog to promote different content, and we drive a ton of leads from those. And so it's definitely one of our kind of more top performing channels across demand generation because we have such a highly read and blog for LinkedIn. So I just wanted to share that. I think it's something that people don't typically think of as a demand generation channel. And then finally, results. I wanted to just kind of share some of the results that we saw early on from this campaign. When I pulled these results a couple weeks ago, the campaign had been launched about 30 days ago. So the campaign launched in early April, and I actually broke out the results by the webinar versus the ebook. The webinar had almost 1,200 registrations, and 823 of those came from email, but 254 came from sponsored InMail. So sponsored InMail actually drove 30% of the registrations for this webinar. And then, excuse me, and then we also generated 556 tasks, which is that step right before a lead becomes a marketing qualified lead. And we generated 300 marketing qualified leads in the last 30 days. And that number is actually, I think it's nearing close to 500 at this point in the month of May. So just phenomenal results from this ebook. And the top channels for it are email, display, and sponsored updates. And here I kind of have a breakdown of where the leads are coming from. So you'll see emails has driven about 39% of those leads, although that's probably gotten a little smaller now since we have more leads that have been generated from other channels. But sponsored updates and display are actually also driving 39% of those leads. So just incredible. It shows kind of how incredibly powerful the LinkedIn platform can be when it comes to generating leads. And it's just something that we constantly use as a team to keep those leads flowing throughout the quarter. And that's it. That kind of concludes my presentation. But, in summary, when you have a new offer, really think about where you can promote it. Try to diversify your channels. Really make it a multi-channel campaign approach. And I think you'll see some really strong results from it. And from here, I'm going to pass it back over to Jen.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. And before we jump into the Q&A, just a few final thoughts. So first of all, remember, don't underestimate the value of the top of the funnel. As demand gen marketers, I think we've been living in the bottom funnel world for so long. But the top of the funnel and investing in the top of the funnel and brand awareness and perception does pay off in terms of lead conversion. The second thing is remember to tap into the value of all those anonymous website visitors, right? So email is not the be-all, end-all for B2B marketers. You have tons of anonymous, valuable website traffic that's coming to your site, people that are interested in your brand. So make sure that you use every opportunity to stay in front of them. Tailor your messages and content to people based on, their sales readiness. So again, we sort of saw how you're able to do this with Lead Accelerator by targeting very specific groups of people based on, where they're visiting your site. And then finally, use channels that let you engage with people when they're most receptive, right? People are constantly on the go, and you never know when they're going to want to engage with you in today's buying process, so just be ready wherever they are. Great. Amanda, can you forward just one more slide? So just one last plug for some different resources that you may find useful. You can access all the case studies that you saw here, as well as many more at the link provided there for the Case Study Hub. Please do visit the LinkedIn Marketing blog for some great topics on both these products and the results, as well as some great thought leadership from our content team. And then finally, everyone will receive a link to basically the companion guide to this webinar, the Demand Generation Marketer's Guide to LMS, or LinkedIn Marketing Solutions. That'll be coming in the follow-up email to all registrants and attendees of this webinar. And just one more mention, there will be slides available to you as well, and you will get those in the email as well. Okay. So we have a ton of great questions coming in. Thank you so much for participating. And we'll start to kick things off there. Okay, so there were many questions around how Lead Accelerator compares to retargeting. It's a great question, one that we do get frequently when we're at conferences and trade shows as well. And the thing I like to say is retargeting, as you know it, in terms of, basic just, sending people the same ad based on who came to your site, that is sort of a very B to C transactional type of ad retargeting, right? You're basically sending the same ad to people. You're not really considering sort of where they are in the buying process and, what their sort of needs are to be educated, right? Lead Accelerator is quite different from retargeting in that it adopts more of the mentality that you've learned for email lead nurturing, right? So you're thinking about, okay, if this person is not ready at this point in time, what's the actual sequence of ads that I want to send over time based on who they are and where they're visiting my site, right? As we saw with the two examples that I sort of walked through with homepage visitors and product page visitors, those are two very specific groups of people that have different needs. With regular retargeting, you're not able to sort of, send ads to them in a very sort of sophisticated way. But Lead Accelerator, again, allows you to adopt that more nuanced way of addressing people with a variety of messages over time. Okay, so let's see, a lot of great questions around targeting as well. And I'll let Amanda take the next one. Amanda, can you sort of talk about your approach to targeting in products like Lead Accelerator and InMail? Sort of, specifically, are you targeting by geography or using other sort of segments? And what are you finding to be the most or the highest performing for you?
Sure, great question. So we are targeting, we're using some specific targeting, and we focus a lot of our targeting probably around job function and job title. So those are sort of the biggest emphasis for us. And then industry. So industry is a big one. We kind of have some niche industries that we understand we get, high performance from. So tech marketers, for example. We did a very specific targeted in-mail to marketers in technology companies. And I believe there was a company size filter on that as well. I think it was 200 or more employees. But the webinar result, the in-mail actually drove 47% of the webinar attendees or registrants for that event. So it just sort of was like one of those eye-opening moments, wow, when we get very specific and we target really well using in-mail, the results from that are just incredible. So they're much higher. The more targeted you can be, the more specific you can be with your content, the better results you're going to see. So we do a lot of that, and then in Lead Accelerator, I kind of showed that example of how we were targeting based on behaviors on the website, and then also based on products that people are viewing. In addition to that, we noticed in our when we initially launched our campaigns that we were driving a lot of inquiries, but they weren't always turning into qualified leads. So we added on, we have the ability in Lead Accelerator to add on LinkedIn data targeting. So we actually just started to target on companies. We did an exclusion of companies that were just small, so one person, or I think smaller companies like I think it goes like 2 to 10, and then anyone under 50 employees we excluded from seeing our ads, and that actually really dramatically increased the number of MQLs or conversion rate to MQL. So I think it went from something like 35% to 69% or something like that. So it almost doubled the conversion rate there. So again, just sort of really powerful when you kind of add in that LinkedIn data targeting to your campaigns. And so it's very easy to do it in both in-mail and Lead Accelerator.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. All right, a few questions around integrations with Lead Accelerator. So does Lead Accelerator integrate with other solutions besides Eloquen Marketo? At the moment, we are only integrating with Eloquen Marketo. There are, other options being explored in the roadmap now. But yes, at the moment, we are only integrating with those two solutions. All right, another question. Did you really say not to track cost per lead? This is a great question, and I will say that what I was trying to get at, and I think you're sort of referring to my top of the funnel talk earlier, it really depends on your marketing objective, right, and the channels that you're using. If you're using LinkedIn Network Display, for example, you don't want to track cost per lead, even as a demand gen marketer. As we saw in the My Case example, she was tracking by top funnel metrics like driving targeted website traffic. And this is because display, again, is not meant as a direct bottom funnel converter, right? Display is sort of like setting you up, setting your nurture campaigns up, driving more people into the top so you get more people at the bottom. So it's a great question. There's actually, and I didn't really sort of speak to the full funnel analytics component of the Marketing Solutions platform, but we basically give you the ability to measure the impact of your display ads anywhere along the funnel. So we'll really help you sort of understand what's the impact that my ads are having at the top of the funnel. How many people, how many new visitors are my ads driving to my site? And then we also provide you with the right metrics at the bottom of the funnel. So if you do want to know, how many leads or actions or conversions has Lead Accelerator actually given to me as well, we provide that as well within the same analytics platform. So again, it depends. Even as a demand gen marketer, I think you need to sort of think about what are the channels I'm using and am I measuring them appropriately? Because some channels, for some channels, your metric won't be lead or cost per lead. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, another great question around nurturing anonymous website visitors. And I'll let Amanda comment on this because I bet she has some great insight as to how we're doing it internally. So how would you nurture, or what do some of our anonymous website visitor nurture campaigns look like in terms of the ads that we show on LinkedIn? Amanda, do you want to comment on that one?
Sure. Yeah, so actually I'm going to flip back to, I think it might be helpful if I go back to the slide that I showed earlier because it has some examples of how we're doing it. Okay, so these are our ads that we're running on Lead Accelerator right now. And most of them, as you can see, are actually promoting content. And so that's what we focus on when we use Lead Accelerator. We've seen the best conversions from that. We also aren't in a situation where we have a free trial or free demo offer. I think it would be, interesting to test something like that. And, I believe that our MAC team or our marketing automation team has seen some success from that. But so we're using offers that we're using mostly content offers, and then we're targeting those based on kind of how they fit in with what people are doing on our site. So the easiest example to look at here is sponsored updates. So sponsored updates is actually retargeting people who go and visit our sponsored updates pages, and we're sending them content that's relevant to sponsored updates and also relevant to content marketing. So the first piece of content or first ad that they're going to see is the top 7 sponsored update success stories. So very relevant to what they were looking at. It's a case study offering, kind of understanding how other people have used sponsored updates and been successful on LinkedIn. The next offer they see is the Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to Thought Leadership. And although this piece is actually more content marketing focused, but we see the two are very closely related, so we went ahead and offered that. So if someone didn't convert off that sponsored update success stories, then we might actually see them download the Sophisticated Guide to Thought Leadership. The third one is actually an ad for sponsored updates. So we do sprinkle that in there, and this isn't a content piece. It's strictly a get started kind of offer. It doesn't perform as well as the content, but we feel it's important to kind of keep those in there, and we do see enough positive results from it to keep those running. And then the fourth offer is our multi-channel nurturing primer. And this is, again, it's a white paper about using different channels to nurture prospects, and so sponsored updates is a piece of that. So that's how we kind of target our content. We leverage existing content and find places for it to work within our streams. And another quick example is like homepage bouncers. Those are people who've maybe come to the site but not expressed a lot of interest. We're going after them with our Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn, and we have huge success with that. People really love that ebook. It's a great way to kind of get an understanding of how you can use LinkedIn for marketing. So those are a couple examples of kind of the ads we're using. And as I mentioned earlier, we also are running Facebook newsfeed ads and sponsored updates through Lead Accelerator. So we're targeting them on different channels. So I hope that kind of answers what they were looking for.
Yeah, and we actually got a somewhat similar question around sort of best practices for content, but this time around sponsored in-mail. Can you talk about sort of like, first, so what are the targeting segments that you're using for in-mail right now? And have you seen sort of content that has outperformed others in that channel?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I talked a little bit about the targeting earlier, but I'll just reemphasize again that we are really focused on targeting based on job function and title, so really looking for marketers, and then also focused on targeting towards different verticals depending on what the content or the offer is. And then the other piece of that is, company size is another kind of important factor that we found kind of increases the quality of the leads that we get from in-mail. And then I can speak to the content. The content is, it's interesting because we actually see, I highly recommend using sponsored in-mail for event and webinar promotions. That's where we see absolutely hands down the most success from it. We haven't seen, it does perform well for content, but it definitely is like a needle mover when you use it to promote webinars and events. So that's sort of like where if I was talking to another marketer, would always recommend starting with in-mail because you're going to just get some really strong results from that out of the gate. So it does well on that kind of event-focused piece of things. And we're seeing, like, the sponsored in-mail product is, we're right now seeing open rates, in the 30 to 40% range, sometimes even higher. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and I highly recommend, trying to integrate that into some of your campaigns, especially if you're trying to promote either a live event or a webinar or one of those kinds of things.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. So we're approaching the top of the hour, so let's take one more question. And this came in a few times. Do you need to install a tracking code for Lead Accelerator? So the answer is yes. It's called a LinkedIn Insight Tag, and that basically goes on any web page on your website, landing pages, blog pages, any page that you're looking to sort of track. And it's just a simple JavaScript tag. And yeah, that enables you to essentially target those people after they leave your site with sort of the relevant ads we were talking about, either based on who they are, so the profile in their LinkedIn, or the data in the LinkedIn profile, or where they visited your site. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Again, you'll get the slides as well as a link to the ebook in the follow-up email. Please do also look out for other webinars that we have. If you're interested in learning more about sponsored email, there is an upcoming webinar on sponsored email, so a very sort of deep dive demo day on email coming up in early June, so keep your eyes locked for that. And we all hope to see you on another webinar very soon. Thanks.